Hello, everybody. I have become a black reaction channel. That is what I am. That is what we're doing. I have joined the ranks of Flight Reacts and other. I think Heck Speaks shows up on my. He shows up on my recommended. I don't know if he's a black reaction channel, but he's a black channel that gets recommended to me, and I have joined the ranks because you know what? Let's just do some bottom of the barrel, lowest common denominator reaction content. Why not? Why not join? Why not join? This is why Martin Luther King marched to Washington. March to Washington. I also can't speak English, okay? It's like my fifth language. It's so that black people can become reaction channels on YouTube. So we're going to talk about poverty. Just a very fun Black Friday thing. What goes hand in hand with Black Friday and poverty? So let's get right into it.
Good morning, Hank. It's Tuesday. So if you've read my book, Everything is Tuberculosis, you will know Henry Ryder, the young man who inspired my interest in TB and whose effort to survive multi-drug-resistant tuberculosis is a through line in the book. Well, today I want to tell you a story about Henry, a story of ridiculous injustice and also perseverance. So after surviving drug-resistant tuberculosis, Henry has become a successful college student. He's one semester away from graduating and also an advocate.
Love myself an African Bretta. Just had to throw that out there, had nothing to do with the video, but just love seeing a good African. Shout out to my man, Henry.
For those living with the disease. Like, he often visits LACA, the only tuberculosis hospital in Sierra Leone, to remind patients that the disease is curable and that they can go on to live long and healthy lives even though the treatment and life at the hospital are difficult. Right, so earlier this year, Henry and his mother Isatu were invited to the big annual tuberculosis conference, which is called the Union Conference on, tuberculosis and lung health or something. That's not actually what it's called, although that would be a funny name for a conference. I was also invited to attend the conference to be held in Copenhagen, Denmark, and I was very excited to see Henry and Isatu. I haven't seen Henry since 2023, and I was excited to see Isatu to thank her for saving Henry's life because she brought him extra food and stuck by him during the 3 years of his hospitalization. By the way,
Wait, 3? That's actually a bit mad. 3 years in the hospital. Okay, that is shout out to her.
Both Henry and Isatu have YouTube channels. You should subscribe, link below. Now, for me, visiting Denmark is a matter of having a passport and booking a flight. But for Henry and Isatu, it is not nearly so simple because they need a visa to visit Denmark from Sierra Leone. And that visa cannot be acquired in Sierra Leone because there is no Danish consulate there. Instead, they needed to gather endless paperwork and letters of recommendation and so on, and then fly from Sierra Leone to Ghana, where they had to surrender their passports in the visa application process and then apply for a visa to visit Denmark. And then they had to wait at least 15 days. Now, Henry and Isatu could have flown back from Ghana to Sierra Leone and then flown back to Ghana in order to pick up their visas and then flown back to Sierra Leone, but that would have cost about $2,000. They decided it was cheaper to just stay in Ghana and wait. But that wait turned out not to be 15 days because they were told at the end of 15 days that their visa applications had not yet been processed and a decision had not been made. Instead, it took around 25 days of waiting in Ghana to find out if they were going to get visas to visit this conference in Denmark. And finally,
they basically lost a month of their Yo, that's actually crazy. Okay.
at the last possible moment, they received their decision, and Isatu was denied a visa to visit Denmark and just had to fly back to Sierra Leone without one. Why was she denied? I don't know, and neither does Isatu because there was no clear reason stated, but this kind of thing is common in impoverished countries. I mean, the truth is, Hank, rich nations are always looking for reasons to deny visas to people from poor nations, and so even though she did everything right and had all the paperwork correct and was invited to the conference, she was denied. To be clear, this is not only a problem in Denmark, like it is literally impossible for Henry and Isatu to visit me in the United States because there is a total travel ban that has been instituted by the Trump administration on people from Sierra Leone visiting the United States for no reason other than Sierra Leone is poor. At any rate, Isatu was not able to attend the conference and talk about how to love and save someone living with tuberculosis, even though hearing from her would have been, I would argue, much more important than hearing from me, because we learn much more about tuberculosis and how to survive it from people who actually have survived it and supported people through that process than we learn from, like, some middle-aged dad from Indianapolis. On everything from
I don't know, middle-aged dads from Indianapolis might have the ChatGPT premium, so maybe they might be able to, solve tuberculosis. Who knows?
Providing nutrition to addressing stigma, Isatu is an expert on how to save kids from TB death. But Henry's visa, for somewhat inexplicable reasons, was approved, so he was able to travel to Denmark and speak to thousands of TB
I'm sorry. Why does this guy look like Kwame Kababi TikTok? Yo, I'm messed up. Yo, this is why Africans don't mess with me, man. Yo, this is what's going on out west. I'm sorry. Yo, I'm a terrible person.
researchers and doctors about his experience.
It's really awesome to be alive again. It was not easy.
He was able to celebrate his mother and his doctors and stand in for all those with TB who couldn't be there, including the 1.2 million people who died needlessly of that disease just last year. He spoke beautifully and passionately and with astonishing confidence, and we got to share meals together, and I found out that he's a fan of K-pop, and we went to an art museum together, and in general, it was just a magical, wonderful week.
I'm not gonna lie, this kind of warms my heart. This warms my heart.
But still, I'm pretty frustrated that Isatu wasn't there, and I'd argue that visa injustice is actually related to the TB crisis in at least two ways. First, both TB and visa injustice are a reminder that poverty is expensive. I incurred a lot of expenses trying to get Isatu to the conference, so did the conference itself, but that's nothing compared to the expenses incurred by Henry and Isatu, right? Because they lost not just money, but the most valuable commodity of all, time. They lost time for educational opportunities and for work. They lost years of time to tuberculosis, and then they lost more time to visa injustice. Poverty is expensive because it costs so much time and money to navigate systems that are built to exclude the poor.
No, actually, I'm not gonna lie, facts, man. Because think about this. You lost imagine if you had to go a month without pay. Now, I guarantee you rent in Sierra Leone, it's probably like $10 a month, but that's neither here nor there. The fact that he wasn't able to, or the fact that I think Isatu, maybe it was his caretaker, mother, don't know. But the fact that, the fact that they weren't able, like the fact that they had to give up a month, that's a lot of, that's a 12th of the year. Like you're giving up, what is it, 8% off the top of my head? Yeah, I think it's 8%. Like 8 and like a quarter percent of your year trying to get a visa. And this isn't even the monetary. I think people focus so much on, oh, well, I save money, but time is money. And I think that's the whole point of this video, is that they are wasting, like time is the most precious thing you have. And you're wasting that because you're just in the wrong country. It's because they're not from a Western nation.
I spoke to a mother in the Philippines recently who spent over $100 getting her son diagnosed with tuberculosis. Money that she didn't have, that only drives her further into poverty, and money that I will never have to spend. Time and well-being lost to tuberculosis is expensive because poverty is expensive. And secondly, I think tuberculosis and visas are related because visas shape not just who gets to talk at the highest levels about the tuberculosis crisis, but what kinds of conversations we end up having. I think this is why, for instance, we spend so much time worrying about corruption in poor countries when it comes to aid, and very little time worrying about corruption in the form of price gouging from rich countries. And I also think this is why we have so many resources for health problems that commonly affect people in rich countries, but don't have resources for tuberculosis. Hank, the longer I'm in the world of tuberculosis, the more I realize that everything really is connected to tuberculosis, but only because tuberculosis is a symptom of a larger human failure. I mean, this is a disease we've known how to cure since the 1950s, and yet we still lose 1.2 million people to it. Why is that? Well, partly because the disease is hard to cure, but mostly because we've failed to build systems that treat all human beings as equal. And Isatu's absence at the conference this week reminded me of that. Hank, I'll see you on Friday.
Yeah, John Green's got a lot of points here. And I think that the fact, I think people look at, oh, you're broke, you don't got money, and they think of that's the accounting cost, as my professor would say. But that is the accounting cost. But think of the economic cost. Think of the fact that that conference had a whole lot less because somebody who's like their lived in experience, and it's not because they were qualified, it's because who knows what's good with the Danish government. I don't know what's going on over there. I just know that I think there's an Anne Frank museum. Who knows? I don't know what's good, but no, the fact that Denmark is not, the fact that they denied the visa, and I remember I see this in my own life where there are people who have to work XYZ job, whether it be at, either they're working at Shake Shack, they're at Kava, they can't go to school, they can't advance their life because they have to work to pay their bills. And then and then sometimes I know people that can't even get credit cards because they're just so busy working they're busy working. So they can't really try to set time aside because really what poverty is expensive. Poverty robs your time. And John Green, I cannot agree with you more that, the fact that, this person wasn't able to go to a conference and that they had to now, they had to stay home, and that it's a self-fulfilling, or it's like a cycle. And I know this video is different, your boy's trying to branch out. I'm trying to break that 17 view mark. Maybe I'll get 18. Maybe I might get 20 on this thing. But no, I just wanted to maybe try to do more reaction videos and see maybe once a week if there's something that's really interesting to me, or something that, because John Green, maybe I think he plagiarized me. I think the man because I was saying the same thing. But no, he actually says it really well that, the fact that the time you have to spend because you're just in a different disadvantaged situation economically adds to the poverty. It makes the problem worse, not better. Thanks for watching this video. If you like, please like and subscribe. My socials will be linked down below and at the end of this video. Thank you so much, and I'll see you soon.